Camera number 280 of 365 is a Pentax MZ7. It's taken a while for me to get to this camera. I've had a few, and on a particular auction site, invariably I've obtained some of these cameras, and although they're advertised as working, they turn on. But a common problem with this MZ series, because they're predominantly made of plastic, there is a cog that either drives the, I think it's either the shutter or the film advance, and that wears over a period of time, and as a consequence the camera then becomes, it works, but it doesn't. It turns on, but it doesn't actually either fire the shutter or advance the film, rendering the camera useless really. So I believe this one does work. It certainly has advanced the film, but we'll see when I come to develop the film. So the camera requires batteries to operate, and they're housed in the little door here. Two CR2 batteries, and then just turn that. Tripod mount at the bottom there, and then our lens mount is the Pentax mount, and I've got a Pentax FA here. To take the lens off, we just depress the lens button, and then that shows us our contacts with the various variations of these lens, the automatic focus lens. And then on the other side we have our slider switch that allows us to choose manual focus or autofocus, little button that allows us to choose some exposure compensation, and then a little cover here is a port for a cable release. So let's just put the lens on. So to turn the camera on, we just slide the slider switch, and invariably we'll put the lens to A, but we'll come on to that in a few moments. And as a result, all the functions of the various modes, particularly when it comes to manual shutter priority and aperture priority, will invariably change. So for example, in manual mode I'm changing the shutter here. I presume I have to press a button, maybe the exposure compensation, to change the aperture. Yep, that's right. In aperture priority mode, again, the rocker button will change the aperture, and the camera will set the shutter speed. And conversely, if we put it in TV mode, it will change the shutter. And sorry, you change the shutter, and the camera will take care of the aperture. However, if you turn it off A, you can still use it in that way. So, for example, in aperture priority mode, rather than use the rocker, you can just turn the aperture ring itself, and the camera will select the correct shutter speed. What makes this camera slightly interesting is that we have some modes, some creative modes. Now we have, if we put it on picture mode, I'm not sure why oh yeah, I need to put it on A, that's why. If we put it on A, the lens, so we have auto picture mode, and basically auto picture mode will select one of these 6 modes, presumably based on the light conditions, where we focus, and distance, and then it will select. So for example, because I suppose I'm close up, it's assuming I want to do macro, but it's not quite sure. It thinks also it could be landscape. So it's useful for a kind of program mode, but presumably it's slower than actually selecting one of these deliberately. So there's various modes here. I think that's just presumably point and shoot mode, that one, happy mode. Portrait, landscape, macro, sports, nighttime portrait, no flash. Interesting, it selects landscape there. And then we can beeper, and then we can select our ISO, which again is a nice feature to have. It does feature DX coding, but we can select our own ISO. And then coming over the other side, we have our shutter actuation, our rocker button, so we can choose multiple exposure, our mode, whether we're going to do continuous mode or single release, our self-timer, intelligent flash can be set, presumably in conjunction with these other modes, I would think. And then we have a memory lock for exposure, and then we have a panorama mode, which basically, if we open the door of the camera, film chamber, just puts a blind up on the shutter, causing it to look as though it's a panorama. I don't know whether you can see that very clearly on the video. There's a little blind coming down, shielding some of the film. Films literally just drop in and load there. We can see the evidence of the plastic here, and that's one of its downfalls, sadly. It's a very light camera and a real joy to use, I must say. Diopter is included. We can put another external flash if we want, but it does have a built-in flash, which is released by that button. So certainly a lot of features crammed into the body. I have got a mid-roll rewind here somewhere. An unusual place, I think, perhaps where my finger is there, just there. So that's it. That's the Pentax MZ7. Hopefully it works. I'll be very pleased if it does. And that has been camera number 280 of 365.